Hi everyone, my name is Reshma Adhikari and in this video I'm going to discuss one of the most significant movements in the US history, the Civil Rights Act 1964. This law officially ended legal segregations and discrimination based on race, colors, religion, sex, or national origin. However, what makes this topic truly interesting is that even though the laws changed, American society didn't change overnight. So, in this video, I'm going to explain what the Civil Rights Act did and why it mattered and why its success was limited in real life even after it became law. Before 1964, segregation was legal in many parts of the United States, especially in the South. Black Americans were denied equal access to school, restaurants, hotels, jobs, and voting. Even though slavery has ended, Constitution promised equality. Jim Crow laws allowed a state to legally separate people by race. By the 1950s and 1960s, the civil rights movement grew stronger. Leaders like Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, and many ordinary citizens organized protests, boycotts, and marches to demand equal rights. Events like Birmingham Campaigns and the March on Washington put the national pressures on the federal government to finally act. One important primary source connected in this topic is President Lyndon B. Johnson's speech to Congress in 1964, where he urged lawmakers to pass the Civil Rights Act. In this speech, Johnson said, "We shall overcome," connecting the struggle of civil rights to American values like freedom and justice. This speech shows us how the federal government finally acknowledged discrimination was not just a social issue but a national moral problem. Johnson's word helped convince Congress and the public that civil rights reform was necessary. The Civil Rights Act 1964 made segregation illegal in public places like restaurants, hotels, theaters, and schools. It also banned job discrimination and gave the federal government power to enforce the law. This was a huge victory. For the first time, the federal government clearly stepped in to protect civil rights instead of leaving the state. However, even the law changed, people's attitude did not change. Many businesses refused to comply, schools delay integration, and racism continue in everyday life. A secondary source that helped explain in our history textbook, which explain that law can force compliance but they can instantly change belief or culture. The textbook shows that after 1964 discrimination became less visible but didn't disappear. Practices like riddling, unequal schooling, and voter suppression continue in new form. This is why historians often say you can change the law but cannot change the cultures overnight. The Civil Rights Act was successful legally, but socially the struggle continued. To conclude, the Civil Rights Act of 1964 was one of the most important laws in American history. It ended legal segregation and expanded civil rights protection, but it also reminded us that real change takes time. Law can open the doors, but the society has to walk through them. That's why the civil rights movement didn't end in 1964. It continued and it also matters today. This topic is still relevant today because debate about equality, discrimination, and civil rights continue in modern America. By studying this movement in history, we learned that protecting civil rights requires not passing law, but also staying aware, engaged, and responsibilities as citizens.